what they usually do is they cackle after saying a lie, or they smile, or they have like a hint of a grin, usually after turning their back. Like, legitimately, if they think that they lied and got away with it, they get a dose of dopamine. It's called duper's delight. Look it up. It's a real thing. It's kind of like kleptomania. There are certain people that enjoy stealing. It's not that they can't help it, but like they feel happiness knowing that they took something. And it doesn't have to be something important. I mean, sometimes it can be, but if they manage to steal like a pencil or a piece of paper or anything really, they get to feel a sense of satisfaction. And it's the same thing with the duper's delight. Soy Boys for Kamala. I haven't watched it yet. I will go in raw. You will get my raw emotion. But I found out something very interesting. This is what I've discovered. There's a YouTuber by the name of Xanderhole. And Xanderhole had some very interesting logs getting leaked. I'm not going to go into them because I don't know who Xanderhole is. But what I found to be very, very interesting is that the money he was supposed to get was from a thing called PV. PV means Project Victory. And I've been told that this is something that Brianna Wu started in order to help influencers get paid on the internet. Right? So you have like all these leftist talking points that were paid by PV, including Destiny, Vosh, many others, right? And Brianna Wu started it. But what I find fascinating is, watching my friend Short Fat Otaku, who, I disagreed with him, but he didn't have, like, the awful takes which he's having lately. It's only recently that he's having, like, some of the worst takes imaginable, like picking on the firefighter. Why would you do that, right? And then I realized that the reason he does it is that he is copying Destiny's talking points. Like, if you want to know what Short Fat Otaku says, you just go on Destiny the day before and you get it from his timeline, and then you know what Short Fat thinks. But now like something else clicked. It's like, hold on a little bit. Like, Short Fat Otaku was friends with Brianna Wu, and everyone in our circle was like, what are you doing? Like, this is not a trustworthy person. Like, stop. Stop it then. Stop it. And it's like, oh, well, what bad can come from this? It's a... But, so okay, that now, Brianna Wu that started PV, and's got Destiny in it, and now Short Fat Otaku is copying Destiny's talking points. I just find that to be interesting. I'll talk to him about it. It just feels weird. It feels weird. Because, like, I can understand, like, using some talking points. Like, that's fine. But, like, some of them are so... I wouldn't even say, like, dangerous, but, like, they're like, what are you doing type of territory, like, making fun of, well, not even making fun, but, like, even mentioning the firefighter in any negative aspect. It's like, what the fuck? Even if the firefighter, like, if it was a leftist at the Bernie Sanders rally, why would you go into the politics of the person that got shot? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So, it's just something that I've noticed. Anyhow, Jonathan Price seems to be upset. He doesn't like Sargon. He doesn't like Arch. He doesn't like Dungeons and Dragons. Jonathan Price, what do you like? Let's talk about positive things. Stream has been filled with negativity. What do you like, Jonathan Price? Tell me. Which content creators do you look up to? Which content creators do you think that they can bathe you in their eternal wisdom? Sargon actually had a really good speech with the rally a couple of days ago. Went to a rally, had a good speech. I think it's like one of his best. Oh, you love Arch? But you said fuck Arch, so like... Do you like him or do you... Oh, I see. So it's like an angry like. Now I understand. Alright, naruhodo. Dev definitely has a type, I guess. I had people wanting to come on the stream in order to talk nasty about Dev, and I was like, no. No, I have a line. I will take pokes at him every now and then, especially when something seems weird. But like, I don't want to do the whole internet blood sports thing where I just like get people to shit on him, even if it's profitable. It's just not my thing. Even back in the IBS days, like I would go on other people's streams. I would rarely just start talking and shitting on someone on my channel. It's just not. I think like there were some exceptions. I may have done it a couple of times, but all in all, it's not the thing that I enjoy. I don't like picking on people just for the sake of picking on them, you know? Even though there's money to be made, like people enjoy drama, they like shit posting and shit, but like, it's not my style. Arch is good people. He's just a posh Norwegian. Yeah, Arch is really great. I like Arch. I fully endorse Arch. I avow. Alright, let's see. Oh, going on Twitter. Israel just bombed Beirut, Lebanon. Okay, I mean... That's the main thing that came on my timeline. And I wanted to talk about something more interesting, like white people for Kamala Harris. But instead... Alright, so, the thing with white dudes for Kamala Harris, this is what they actually call it, right? Like, this is their way of calling themselves. I always find it suspicious when you have the expression fellow white people. The reason for this is that white people do not identify as such. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I genuinely do not have a single friend that talks in this manner and says like the white community or us white people, like this just doesn't exist. I'm pretty sure like in some right-wing identitarian circles that are fringe, you may have people talking about this. But usually white people will say us Americans, us Europeans, us Polish, us Romanians. But they even then, it's just weird. So, you will have like black people, right? For that say us blacks or us African Americans. You will have Jewish people that says us Jews. You'd have Muslims that says us Muslims. But I've never heard outside of social media people say us white people, right? So when you have this white dudes for Kamala Harris, to me it's very bizarre. It's very weird. It's very forced. It's very corporate. So let's see what this white dude has to say. It's 1 minute long. I haven't listened to it. It's got 500,000 views. Must be important. Let's give it a listen.
And that happens at the same time as the myths around America that we grew up with, that we as men are expected to be protectors and providers.
This is true around the world, right? I hate this leftist academic brain rot that can only come when people are too complacent and they're paid from the taxes of others, from the misery of others, that you can come up with such a dumb idea that actually men aren't supposed to be the defenders and the providers. So you're telling me that if in 1200 China you have a farm and there are people that are breaking into the farm, it's the husband that's going to hide behind the bed, but it's the women and the children that are going to pick up the pitchforks in order to defend the farm. Is this like the reality that you think connects to the human experience anywhere around the world, anywhere in history? Like, the only way that someone can think like this is if they live in a pod, completely isolated from the rest of human society, stuffed filled with Marvel movies. And I want to say, like, my fucking god, like, these American movies are so fucking dangerous, chat. They are so fucking dangerous. Like, one of the tropes that feminism has pushed into movies was that the pregnant woman is just as capable as any man. And you get to see that in video games. You get to see it like in Wolfenstein, right? Where the pregnant woman fights off Nazis with 2 assault rifles and bathes in their blood as she throws a grenade. Very disturbing scene in the game. But they constantly push this theme, right? And when my wife was pregnant, especially in the last months, like, she herself said that she felt as if she is ill, like she was bedridden. She could barely do anything, right? Like, imagine if you actually believe the horse shit that comes from the American academia. And I used to believe it. I used to believe it, chat. I know it's ridiculous. Like, when I think about it, it's like the one period of my life when I was genuinely ashamed of myself. I was in law school, so I was probably like 20 years old or so. But I was a very introverted type of person. I would enjoy most of my time staying at home and playing video games. Not because I didn't have friends, it's because I legitimately didn't want to socialize. Like, if I was invited to a party, I would say no. I wasn't interested in anything. I wasn't interested in girls. I wasn't interested in making friends. I just wanted to stay home and play video games. It was the type of person that I was. So, having that experience, I would watch a lot of movies. I would play a lot of games, so I wouldn't interact with people. Now, the movies that I watched showed the femme fatale, right? It was Xena Warrior Princess, Buffy Vampire Slayer, like all these women that could kick ass. So that was my knowledge of the world. It was like, all right, you have this magic called karate, and anyone can pick up karate and they can be just as strong as anyone else, right? Like, if you train yourself into martial arts, you become the one. You become Neo. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is that you need the context so you can understand what happened when I went to law school. There was this female professor, I think she was like 25 or so, and she was a judge. And she tells us that one of the worst experiences that she had was when she presided over a trial involving people from the mafia. And someone broke into her house, destroyed everything, her dogs were beaten up, and she was afraid. Like, she was afraid for her safety, right? Like, that was an intimidation tactic that happened. They wanted to send a message. And she was, like, constantly afraid. And I was sitting there, and I'm like, well, why don't you learn karate? I mean, from my point of view, right? Like, I was educated from the academia, right? Like, the left-leaning identity professors got their poison into my mind. So I was like, well, why doesn't she learn karate? I mean, because, like, she was like, I'm a lonely woman. I'm a lonely woman. I'm like, well, learn fucking karate then. You know, like to me, it seemed easy because, like, she has money, she has wealth. Why isn't she training? But then you start interacting with the rest of society, and you realize that actually certain things are the way they are because of reasons. And no amount of ideologues, no amount of like, we are not like the orcs from Warhammer 40k, where if we believe strong enough into something, it happens. I'm ashamed of you, V. SRC Maker, I'm ashamed of myself. Right? Yeah, wax on, wax off. Why can't she kick? Exactly. So, this is like already we're 10 seconds in and it pisses me off. It's like, oh, we in America learned that men must be protected. No. You don't learn this. You know this. If you actually go out of your house and you experience reality, you know this. And it's also that men want to be protectors, right? Like, you're walking down the street and a vicious dog jumps in front of you and your family. What are you going to do? Are you going to push the wife in front? Are you going to push the kids in front? No, you're going to not even think about it. Like, this actually happened to me a couple of days ago. Like, I was walking with my wife on the street, and all of a sudden this dog comes out barking. Like, I didn't even think. I didn't even, like, have time to process what is going on, but, like, instinctively, I just pulled my wife behind me, and I was in front of the dog. I didn't even know what to do. I had no idea. Well, luckily, the dog didn't attack, right? But it was barking, and it was angry. So, like, that was my instinct. Like, I didn't even process it. I didn't even, like... So, yeah, no, it's not that you in America are taught. No, you in America are taught the opposite. That's the problem. Like, you in America are taught that, no, you as a man need to hide behind the skirt. You as a man need to go behind the woman, which is against human nature. It's the most bizarre take.
And that happens at the same time as the myths around America that we grew up with, that we as men are expected to be protectors and providers are.
It's so nice, right? It's so nice to be shed of responsibility. It is so convenient to be weak and say, you know what? It's actually great being weak. Yeah, I can see why you're part of such an ideology. But what I also see is that there's no passion in him. There's no pathos here. Like, he doesn't seem like he believes it. It's more like he's reading from a script. And by the way, like, look at Ukraine, right? I mean, this is what most of the internet is pointing out. In Ukraine, if you're a man and if you're over the age of 18, and I think it's under the age of 65 or something like that, you cannot leave the country. Even if you transition, even if you do the Democrat magic and you perform the American miracle where you say, I identify as a woman, they will still not let you to go get past the border. Unless you have like dual citizenship. If you have dual citizenship, you can get out. But if you're a woman, right, and all of a sudden the border guard knows the definition of a woman, like they actually know. I don't know how they do it. Like in Ukraine, my God, like that country must be years ahead of the American academia. Like that's why America wants to protect Ukraine, because they have some knowledge belonging to humankind that other nations can't even get to. But yeah, like they actually know to differentiate between a man or a woman. There's no question there. It's like, but what is a woman? What is the chromosome? You know, like when some leftist asks you from now on, what is a woman? You can say a person that can leave Ukraine during a time of war. That is the definition. That I gave it to you. It should be on Webster Dictionary, right? What is a woman? A person that the Ukrainian border guard allows them to leave during the time of war with Russia. So there's a lot of that going around, right? And it shows like Ukrainian ladies that are going to Germany, to France, to Poland, and they're taking Instagram photos while the men are sitting there and they're in the trenches. So according to this gentleman, like, no, that's a myth. That's not how it should be. It should be the other way, right? It should be that the men are capable of leaving Ukraine and going into Germany, Poland, France, and doing let's plays and streaming and having fun, while the women are in the trenches, right? Am I getting this correct? Like, is this how it should happen?
And that happens at the same time as the myths around America that we grew up with, that we as men are expected to be protectors and providers, are going out into an economy that doesn't really allow for that, especially for working class folks. And sort of like compounding on that, masculinity as a trope has been co-opted by the MAGA right into something that feeds into and exacerbates the loneliness epidemic.
The reason this happened is that the left offers nothing for masculinity. Like if you're a man that identifies with the traditional gender roles and you actually do want to offer stability for your family, which is something that your grandparents could do, the left offers nothing about that. And in fact, it tries to dissuade you from doing that. It says that it's a bad thing. It gets people like that saying, no, actually that's evil. That's bad. You shouldn't do it. It's so bizarre, isn't it? Trey Daniel, thank you for the $10. It's okay. We have black guys for Trump. And I've been told I have my pass. Yeah, I seen a lot of support now for Donald Trump. This is why they actually despise the picture with the assassination, right? With Donald Trump and the fist pump and the flag. They absolutely loathe that picture. They're trying to get away from it. Because even Zuckerberg was looking at that picture. And he basically said, I can't deny that was badass. And it was. Like I'm pretty sure a lot of women got moist by watching that picture, because that was like the epiphany of American bravery. Too bad it's going to be completely buried. It already is. Like seriously, do this experiment. Try and find that picture on social media. Try and find that picture on Facebook. Try and find that picture anywhere else but X. It's being suppressed. It's not impossible. Like, you will get to find it. But the reason they did this is that the Associated Press had like internal memo leaked where they're asking other people from the press to stop showing that image because it puts Trump in a good light and it's not objective way of reporting the news. I love that framing. It's like objective way of reporting the news. Yes. They tell you everything is a social construct, so you believe it's based on nothing and change has no consequence. I really hate the concept. It's like, okay, everything is a social construct. Then you getting offended is also a social construct, you know? They only want to use social construct definition on things that they want to tear down. But the reality is like, yeah, everything is a social construct, because guess what? We live in a fucking society. God, I really hate that. Basically, Seriously, all right. Like let me tell you how conniving the academics are. Like let me show you what the academics are doing. Right. Like what does the social construct mean? Um, Human beings have an advantage over almost any other animal on the planet because we got language, right? So like with language, we use definitions in order to explain to a person something that they themselves can't experience. Like most animals on Earth, right? In order for like a cat to know what snow is, it has to experience snow. Like there is no way for a cat to learn about the concept of snow without being in the snow. For humans, it's not like that. Like I know the concept of a desert without actually being in a desert. So even though I've never went to Sahara, I know how it would be like to be in Sahara. Now I don't know 100%, but I can. Now how do I know? Because other people can describe it to me, right? So like when you use language, you describe certain experiences and stuff that another person then internalizes and understands without actually having to experience that themselves. So how does this work, right? Well, let's take it back to the first time that a person went to Sahara Desert. And he went to Sahara and he saw things and they started giving them names, right? So like, okay, he sees sands, he sees dunes, he sees cactuses, he sees an oasis, he sees palm trees, like he sees all these things, and then he goes back to other people and tells them what Sahara is like, right? However, what the left academics are saying is that the definitions he gave to these things weren't to just like describe them. No, like he was trying to oppress people by using those definitions. So like someone that goes into a cave and calls it stalactite and stalagmite, the leftist says no, he did that on purpose to be offensive towards the stalagmite because the stalagmite might want to be a popsicle. And now the stalagmite can't be a popsicle because of the hurtful language that we're using, right? So that is like the difference in the worldview. The original people were utilitarians. They were giving definitions for the sake of defining and explaining things. The leftist academics are trying to change definitions in order to protect certain groups, right? So like they don't like you calling it illegal, even though like the first person that saw one, it's like, okay, well, he is illegally here. So when we talk about illegals, we mean that a person illegally crossed the border and now he is illegally here and the law needs to be applied and put in a position of legality. But the left will say, no, you can't use the word illegal. You need to use undocumented migrant, right? It's almost like a person that just forgot his documentations at home. So now, like, you change the connotation, you change the language in the hopes that people don't think about it. The best example of this is with COVID, right? Like, people would say China virus. So it puts the blame on China for not being able to contain this virus. And there is truth to that, because if you look at how China behaved in the early stages of the pandemic, well, they denied that the pandemic exists. They denied that the virus is a thing. They refused to lock their borders. They were getting people from other companies outside of China, like, for example, Australia, to secure facial masks, to secure hand sanitizers, right? Like, so the way they managed the crisis was abhorrent. But by changing China virus into COVID, now people don't associate COVID with China. They just think it's like, oh, it's COVID, right? And they associate it with something from their own countries. But this is what they do when they say it's a social construct. Dicepunk say they fear the picture because it has been curing people of soy face and liberal womanhood when they see it. Pretty much, yeah. Like the way that the left enjoys portraying people, it's like they glorify weakness, right? Like the entire woke ideology is the concept that the strong should serve the weak, right? So like if you're strong, oh, you got privilege, you got all of these things. So what you need to do as a strong person is to serve the weak. And when you sell it like that to people, no one wants to be a servant, right? Like people inherently do not want to be the underclass. So you have to prove that you're weak in order to get strong servants. That's how wokeness works, right? But when you see someone like Trump that gets shot and then covered in blood, he gets up and he says, fight, fight, fight. No one wants to be weak anymore. Everyone's like, why the fuck can't I be there? Why can't I be in the center of attention? Why can't I be that strong? Why can't I have friends like that are that strong? Right? So, like, that is why that picture is so powerful, because it completely destroyed the narrative where, you know, being weak is okay, being complacent is okay, being as pathetic as possible is good. So when you see someone that's actually strong, and it's like an example, and you see everyone cheering and applauding, and he's raising a crowd, like, everyone wants to be like that. Everyone is now like, oh shit, like that's actually pretty badass. That's actually pretty cool. If I can't be like that, I wish I had friends like that at least. So that's why they don't like the picture. It's very powerful. It's very tsuyoi.
As well as the mental health crisis that many face that end up leading to really destructive behaviors. We aren't the only ones that are hurt by these things. Black and brown people, LGBTQIA plus people.
That if you're not the only ones hurt by these things, why do you even separate on race? Like, why is your conversation even bringing up racial differences if you're not the only one hurt by it? Like, if you're going to say white dudes for Kamala Harris, which seems to be like the only time you can identify as white dudes, right? Like, if we have white dudes for video games, oh, that's white supremacy. If you have, like, white dudes for better groceries, that's also white supremacy. White dudes for Kamala Harris is the only acceptable thing in society to say, right? Very interesting. And even then, you don't actually talk about the things that you say should only be applied to white dudes, because that's what you are, right? Like, you're white dudes for Kamala Harris. So what are the actual things that affect you more than anyone else? And if you can't name them, then why are you white dudes for Kamala Harris and you're not just Americans for Kamala Harris?
Especially trans women and indigenous people.
Right. So like, if you're talking about issues, this is like fascinating. He's talking about mental issues, and then in the next sentence he says especially trans people. It's like, okay, no, isn't that what he did? Let's listen again.
Any face that end up leading to really destructive behaviors. We aren't the only ones that are hurt by these things. Black and brown people, LGBTQIA plus people, especially trans women and indigenous people.
Right, so he talks about mental health issues, and then he continues the phrase with that.
The trope has been co-opted by the MAGA right into something that feeds into and exacerbates the loneliness epidemic, as well as the mental health crisis that many face that end up leading to really destructive behaviors.
So the mental health crisis that end up leading to many disruptive behaviors. We're not the only ones affected by this. It's also...
We aren't the only ones that are hurt by these things. Black and brown people, LGBTQIA plus people, especially trans women.
Do these people even think about shit before they say it? Or is it like the word salad that just has to be said? Do they have like a proofreader? Do they have ChatGPT that at least looks at the shit that they're writing before, huh? It's very weird, isn't it? Yeah, he used all the letters, yes. You're lonely and it's everyone else's fault. The loneliness epidemic, first of all, is very interesting that it happens in the big cities, right? People in the countryside, they're not complaining about loneliness, are they? You're lonely because you sit in your fucking house. That's why you're lonely. Now, granted, I will give them this. Going out costs money, right? Especially during the middle of the winter. So it's not cheap to go out. In some places, I wouldn't even recommend going out. If you live in Chicago or in certain parts of New York where they send the military to suppress the subways, okay, if you live in that, yeah, maybe it's actually good to be alone. But if you don't want to be alone, go to church. Go to church. You can socialize at church. But if you're going to sit all your time being terminally online, yeah, you're going to be alone. My brain turns off instantly when they start doing the word salad. Oh, me too. All those people I've only read about on the internet. Kinda, right? The thing is, like, I used to be lonely as well, but you can't expect someone to come up and help you. Like, you need to struggle and fight against the loneliness. Like, you need to find out, wait, I don't know what works for you. I don't know what culture you're in. I don't know, like, what your situation is. But unless you're deformed, unless you're, like, a person that survived the fire, was attacked by a monkey, was, dropped from the crib while a baby, I don't fucking know. Like, unless you're like that, as long as you got 2 hands, 2 arms, and you're presentable, you shouldn't be alone. Like, you should not, seriously, like, you need to work on it. You need to work on it. You need to try different ways in order to start making friends. You need to find out, like, maybe there's something about your personality. Maybe there's, I don't know what it is, but you should definitely not be lonely. If you really hate people. Well, if you really hate people, then you probably aren't upset that you're alone. Because I was lonely in both ways. Like, at first I was lonely and I was happy being lonely, which means that there's no problem to fix, right? But because I was lonely for so long, when I did want to socialize, I didn't really know how. I wasn't reading social cues. I was having difficulty integrating with other people. So it actually took me a lot of time to work it out and figure out what works and what doesn't. But eventually I managed to get away from the loneliness. They bank on the fact that appeals to emotion are supposed to make sense. Yeah, pretty much. White dudes for Harris versus niggas for Trump? Is that an actual thing? Did they actually call themselves that? I think they did, right? Yeah, well, the thing with Ricky Berwick, he does have girls, right? But he is probably an exception. Like he managed to catch the gravy train with the algorithm. Because, like, being a social media star, you need to have, like, a lot of talent, but you also need to have a lot of luck. So you need to start your channel and jump on a bandwagon, and then that carries you all the way to fame. Not everyone can get as lucky as Mr. Ricky. Do they mean being lonely by having no partner? No, they mean being lonely by having no friends, man. And there's a lot of guys that actually are lonely and they have no one. Like, they actually do not have friends. And it can be for various reasons, but usually, yeah, like, if you're suffering from certain levels of autism and you don't get social cues, especially if you're being weird, if you're being, like, anything that deviates too much from what is considered normal, you're going to have problems making friends. If your body language is off, I actually had to work on that, by the way, on the body language. It's very important. Yeah, if you're lonely, that would be my advice. Like, try to work on body language first and foremost. You can be surrounded by people and still be lonely. True. You can also be in a relationship and still feel single. I don't have a lot of friends, but I have plenty of family. There's many such cases. Dude, like, I know many people in Romania. Holy shit, I don't understand them. Like, they love family a lot, which is great, but, like, they don't want any relationships outside the family. So, like, what I mean is not like sexual relationships, but, like, normal friendship, you know? Like, if the person is not family associated, they don't trust him, they don't like him, they look at him suspiciously. Meanwhile, if they are part of the family and they're being a complete asshole, they forgive everything they do. Because, like, oh, well, they're family, so therefore they can act in whatever disturbing manner you want them to act. No, I'm not talking about incest, right? Like, I'm not talking about relationship inside the family as in sexual. I'm talking relationship as, like, friends, right? So, like, acquaintances, friends, people that you enjoy hanging out with, that type of thing, right? Like, there are a lot of Romanians, and this is also true in the rural area, where they will only socialize with the members of the family, and, you know, they will marry outside the family, obviously, and once they marry, the wife's family becomes their family. So that is, like, an exception, right? Like, the parents of the wife and all of her relationships become yours, so then it's fine to socialize with them. It kind of enlarges the family, if you will. But if they just meet a person on the street, like a neighbor, or someone that just is nice with them for the sake of being nice, they don't trust them. They don't like that person. Yeah, probably communism fault. Like the thing with communism, I want to explain why East Germany behaves in the way it does and West Germany behaves differently. You need to think of communism the same way you think of a social media website with Trust and Safety Council on. But instead of getting your account banned, you go to prison, right? So like anyone can be an informant, as in anyone can flag you for hate speech. And anyone can report you for hate speech. So you gotta be extra careful, right? Now, what happens in most of these companies, I actually speak with people that work at Blizzard and people that work at Ubisoft, and these are two of the most woke companies in America right now, in the entertainment industry. And basically what happens is that they have seen their friends getting fired for shit they said 5 years ago, for something they said off the cuff, for like literally anything, right? For anything that they would say. And when you live in that environment, the solution is to make sure that you don't say much. Because if you don't say much, they can't report you, right? So, with that in mind, you notice why a lot of people from East Germany and even other countries, like after living like that for dozens of years, they're very cold, very harsh, very difficult to trust someone, very difficult to put faith into someone. So that's why they're a lot more cold here in Eastern Europe than in other places. Yeah, it's kind of like a snitch culture. Yeah. But it's more like how to protect yourself from snitch culture. That's the thing, right? So, like, yeah, if you are in a system where it is encouraged to snitch and you can get in trouble for shit you said 6 years ago and you can't trust anyone, then to protect yourself, you should just stop talking. Just shut the fuck up. Oh, there's a little bit more from this white guy.
And indigenous people, and all sorts of other folks in our society who've been historically and often still today are marginalized.
I find it to be fascinating. So you call yourself white dudes for Kamala Harris, and then you don't talk about anything specific to white dudes. You're saying, okay, these are the problems. But they're not just our problems, it's everyone's problems. So what exactly are you representing? Like what exactly differentiates you from that you're like part of white dudes for Kamala Harris? What is differentiating you from Americans that are part for Kamala Harris?
Being hurt.
And not to mention, how is Kamala Harris supposed to fix all this? Is it even on her platform? Like, they don't talk about anything that's on her platform. It's so fascinating. I love American ideology. Like here in Romania, when you have elections, usually it's like, don't vote for that politician because he's corrupt, he takes money, he takes bribes, he does this and he does that, and he's a bad person, and blah, 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 right? Vote for me and I will lower taxes, I will fix the economy, I will give you this and I will give you that, and blah, 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 blah. But it's also like economy. What will we do with Russia? Oh, well, with Russia, we will build more planes. We will join NATO. We will ask for more equipment. We will take Constanza, and we will take that port, and we will make it into a bastion of naval warfare into the Black Sea. The Russians are going to look with awe and admiration towards Romania, and they will quake in fear when they look at our waters. Like that. That's how politicians talk in Romania. But meanwhile, in America, it's like, the myth of toxic masculinity looms over our country. Systemic systems of injustices have oppressed over our shores, and it is all because of Donald Trump. But with Kamala Harris in power, all of this magic will go away. She will cast her spell of the Democrats, and she will clear our air from the toxic misogyny with an army of Trust and Safety Council paid from the American taxpayer, and with more money dedicated to Israel, we will manage to get into a bright and better future until the next election, when we will realize that things are just as bad. But hopefully voting for Kamala Harris yet again. Well, like seriously, like it's literally like a children's fairy tale, man. It reminds me of fucking Cartoon Network when they were like talking about tsunami and shit. When they were like, next on Centurions. How can like a group of people look at this and call it like political debate. Like seriously, how low IQ must you be to even be interested in anything that guy talks about? American Outlier. Hi, V. Hope all is well. You know, American Outlier doesn't particularly like the representative of his quote-unquote community. And after looking at this, I kind of understand it. American Outlier, I fully understand where you're coming from now. I get the pain and suffering. This guy is like pain from Naruto, bringing people together through pain, right? Like watching this video has caused me great pain, and now I can understand the suffering and relate with you. Now we have empathy and compassion. Because up until now, I wasn't taking you seriously. Up until now, I was thinking you're talking out of your ass, or you're exaggerating. But after seeing that man open his mouth, I'm like, shit, you know, like, I am so glad that this is a one-off. With representatives like that, who needs enemies? Why is that all I hear is soy, soy, and more soy? The guy is a talking contradiction. I don't understand. It's like, all these marginalized groups that have been historically marginalized and are still marginalized today. Who's marginalizing them? Who's marginalizing? You had the Democrats in the House, the Senate, and the White House. You had them for more than 8 years now. Almost every single major institution is progressive and is supporting the Democrats. Who's marginalizing the people? And I'm willing to bet that the next elections, they will still be marginalized. I think like 1,000 years from now, even if you constantly vote Democrats, they will still be marginalized. They're like, that is, but for some reason, it's like, if you vote for Harris, they will stop being marginalized, but like 4 years in the future, we will repeat the same thing again. It's like a Groundhog Day, election year. They're supposed to be individuals, but they all look and talk the same. Yeah, pretty much. It's like, you heard this speech before. In communism, we used to call it wooden language. You know what? Let me see if ChatGPT knows why it was called wooden language. It's basically buzzwords, but okay, so why did communists in Romania use wooden language? What does wooden language mean? Let's see if ChatGPT knows. So wooden language refers to a style of speech or writing that is characterized by stereotyped cliché and often bureaucratic propaganda-laden expressions. It tends to be vague, repetitive, and devoid of meaningful content. This type of language is often used to mask the true intentions of the speaker, to avoid controversy, or to align with an ideological agenda. The term wooden suggests stiffness, lack of warmth, and artificiality. In the context of communist Romania, wooden language was used as a tool for several reasons. Number one, ideological control. The Romanian Communist Party, like other communist regimes, sought to control public discourse and ensure that all communications aligned with the party's ideology. Wooden language helped maintain a uniform, ideologically correct narrative that reinforced party dogma and discouraged dissent. Well, I'm really glad that doesn't happen in America now, right? I mean, I'm really glad that we have a country out there that champions freedom and liberty rather than ideological control. Manipulation and indoctrination. By using a consistent and predictable set of phrases and slogans, the regime aimed at indoctrinating citizens. The repetition of certain terms and phrases was meant to instill specific ideas and values in the population, making it difficult for people to think outside of the prescribed framework. Again, I'm really glad, man, like, holy shit, so good to have the United States as a bastion of freedom and an example for the rest of us. Suppression of dissent. Wooden language served as a tool to suppress dissent by limiting the vocabulary and means of expression available to the public. By controlling the language, the regime could restrict the expression of alternative viewpoints or criticisms, as these could not easily be articulated within the confines of the approved discourse. Bureaucratic uniformity. The use of wooden language also reflected the bureaucratic nature the communist state. Bureaucrats and officials were expected to use standardized language in official documents, speeches, and communication, which created an appearance of order and uniformity, but often resulted in vague and uninformative content. And finally, intimidation and control. The use of complex, jargon-heavy language could also be a means of intimidating the general population. By making official communications difficult to understand, the regime could assert its authority and maintain control over the interpretation of laws, policies, and directives. It's an interesting take, isn't it? I am not into that commie bullshit about my community. If there's any community I belong to, it's the American community. I'm American first. Now, I know what you mean, but there are people that claim themselves to be leaders of your community, and you told me that they're not very good individuals. And after seeing what the leaders of my community could look like, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I can see why that would be disturbing. I can understand why having such leaders could be problematic. Can we define regime? Well, it's difficult to define regime because it's ambiguous on purpose, right? Like, is it the dictator? Not really, because if the dictator dies, the regime keeps going on. The regime is a group of oligarchs and influential people that have interests which often align. It's pretty much like the inner party members, but even then you can have party members that get arrested, right? So were they part of the regime? I would say it's like if you look at Game of Thrones, right? And you have all the various houses. That's kind of the regime. It's the nobility. It's the people with influence and power in a system where their interests align. So like if you look at social media, what is social media's interest? Is to make money, profit, and to also expand its reach, right? Now, what is the government's interest? The interest of the government is to spread its message and suppress people's messages that go against the government. So now you can have like the same interest, like the social media wants to make money, the government wants to spread the message. So their interests align, right? Now, social media would probably prefer if the government is stable and it doesn't have any major changes so that it can continue the the business. And they're suppressing their dissidents, they're promoting the message. In exchange, they're getting a lot of favoritism. It's like, oh, well, intellectual property seems to be a problem on your platform. Oh, that's no problem. We'll pass a law that allows you to have that, you know, but you need to have like a DMCA system so that people can take it down. But like if something copyrighted is on your platform, according to this law, you now have protection because you're a platform, not a publisher. Right? Like that type of thing. So now they're getting benefits. They're getting perks. Oh, you have competitors. Oh, don't worry about it. You know, we're going to say that they need to remove all hate speech within 24 hours. And you can do it because you got AI, which is expensive. So you can definitely do that. But your competitors are small. They can't do that. So they're not going to be able to compete against you. But the best way to define, yeah, like someone in the chat already said it, the best way to define the regime is the people that need bodyguards. Like the people that have bodyguards are probably the regime. There you go. It's really interesting if you look at the World Economic Forum. Do you know what I find spectacular about the World Economic Forum? You have like a conglomerate of some of the most influential people on the planet. So you got like CEOs, you got politicians, you got business people, you got like some of the most influential people, activists, NGOs. But you know what you don't have at the World Economic Forum? You don't have individuals. Like almost every single person that's there represents an organization, represents a country, right? But no one is there in their name. Like, no one is there like, hey, I'm my own person and I can make decisions on the spot. When they join the World Economic Forum, they're a CEO of a company and they already have a policy that's set. They already have a board that told them what to do. So they're not really malleable. They can't really decide on the spot and use their own whims and minds in order to make decisions. Well, interestingly enough, I'm not a platform, right? Although actually I kind of am. Like, I'm not responsible for the chat. I think like if I was on Twitch, I would have been less of a platform. Yeah, like if you're on Twitch, you're responsible for what people in your chat say. So you're actually a publisher on Twitch. Here, thankfully enough, YouTube doesn't punish the streamer for what the chat is saying. They punish the chat for what it's saying. So if you post something against YouTube's TOS, you get banned, and nothing happens to me. So. But on Twitch, it's the opposite. On Twitch, if you post something bad, then the streamer himself gets into trouble. Donald Trump needs bodyguards, though. Oh, yeah, but I was kidding. Why can't people tell when I'm joking or not? I swear to God, it's so fucking annoying. I need to make warning joke. I need a laugh track, chat. I need someone to make a laugh track so that when I make a joke, there's ha ha ha. I'm not bad at telling jokes. I'm fucking awesome at telling jokes. It's just that when I'm serious, people think I'm joking, and when I'm joking, people think I'm serious. I should sell bathwater, yeah. I hate laugh tracks as well. I never understand how they got popular, and no other country in the world except America. Well, actually, Britain did. Well, okay, no other country in the world except the Anglosphere did laugh tracks. Like, the Soviet Union didn't do laugh tracks. China didn't do laugh tracks. Bollywood didn't do laugh. Anime doesn't do laugh tracks. Only America does laugh tracks. And the only reason you need laugh tracks is because the jokes are so fucking bad. That's why Stephen Colbert have it. Now, actually, you know what? During COVID, when you had all the Americans, quote-unquote, comedians, and they were streaming from their own bedroom without laugh tracks, they were having, like, the worst jokes imaginable. My fucking God. My fucking God. And there are even, like, videos of Friends and Married with Children and other American classics without laugh tracks, and they are just so bad. They are so atrocious. Which is why they actually have the laugh track to begin with. And I remember when I was in high school, there was the cope. It's like, no, they're filmed on a set and that's the actual audience. Fuck off. It's not the audience. Yeah, UK comedy does laugh tracks, yeah. It's not the live audience. Well, it is, but I will tell you what happens, right? So if you're a live audience at these spectacles, they actually have like a big thing which says laugh, and it blinks on, and everyone is laughing. And then they have another one which says boo, and they have another one which says applause. It's, God, it's so bad. And it's so fake. Like, that's what pissed me off. The fakeness, and the fact that without it, the jokes don't land. Yeah, it was a live audience with Married with Children, but again, they had the laugh sign, right? So it turns on and everyone laughs. Yeah, even if it has an actual audience, they are literally told when to laugh. So if that's the case, how is it different than a laugh track? It's actually the same thing. So whether you have an audience which is programmed to laugh when you want them so that the laughing sounds more natural, I suppose, or you actually just edit a laugh track, it's literally the same thing, right? Like, what people want is authenticity. They would expect that you have an audience that is not told to laugh and they're actually laughing when the joke is funny. But if they did that, it could actually interfere with the thing. Because, like, notice how when you have, like, Big Bang Theory, right? And they do the joke, and the audience laughs, and the actors stop talking while the laugh is going on, right? So you don't have, like, the laugh starting while the person is speaking. Because then, like, you as the viewer would have a difficult time listening in if it was, like, actual organic, right? Because, like, someone could laugh over the actor delivering the line, so you wouldn't be able to hear it. No, it's all fake, and it's manufactured. And the purpose of it is to play on the herd mentality that people have, where if you hear others laughing, you want to laugh as well. The new Fresh Prince of Bel-Air fails with and without the laugh track. I haven't even watched it, man. I looked at it, and like, the original Prince of Bel-Air, it was very inclusive, and it had moral takes that anyone, even myself from Romania, could watch Prince of Bel-Air and learn wisdom from it. I could learn something by watching it. But the new one is pretty much like, yeah, white privilege, woke ideology, buzzword. And I'm like, okay, so it's not for me. I see. So I never watched it. I didn't even download it, chat. Oh my god, using Kamala Kakala as a laugh track. Let me show you something that I've seen. That like this is I woke up to something beautiful, chat. And I had to double check to see if it's real or not. And when I saw that it's real, I was like, no fucking way. Alright, so there's this person. By the way, don't contact them. Do not, can I even hide their name? Yeah, I can hide their name. Right. Right-wingers keep using this image as an insult. Kamala Harris. They're the only inadvertently helping her win the furry vote and potentially designing her persona. And the artist drew Kamala Harris as a furry, say, you think you just fell out of a coconut tree. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, you know what? I used to be a furry. And I gotta say, many of them would. Many of them would, chat. I know you can see the name, but I trust you. It's just 300 viewers. I trust that you're not going to contact the person. Please don't contact the person, okay? It's just like for laugh and jiggles. I don't care about like what some person on the internet has its political takes regarding Kamala Harris. My avatar is likely a troll, but not a furry. There's a difference. This is not the win they think it is. It is with the furry community. Man, like, you want the furry community on your side. I keep telling this to right-wingers, but they were disconsidering me until they realized I was right. Like, furries are people that are terminally online, non-stop, right? And on top of that, they're very rich. Now, I don't know if furries are rich because they're from wealthy families, or they're rich because being forever alone in their house, they don't have much money to spend on, but I just want you to understand, a fursuit can be like 20 grand. If you have 20 grand to spend for a fursuit, in my opinion, you're rich. And it's not just the fursuits, but like some of the furry art that they're commissioning looks like shit, but it costs like $500. So if you have that much money to spend, you got that much money to donate, right? So like if you're a cause and you get the furries on your side, not only do you get a lot of donations, but you have an army of activists that don't fucking sleep, stay at home all the time, and they can just get people fired on your behalf, investigate people, dig through people's social media history, do cancel culture. And that's how the left managed to cancel a lot of right-wingers, right? Because like I was telling them, like, you need to look out for the furries. And look at, people thought I was crazy. But then like you had all these articles coming out from Washington Post, New York Times, and many others. It's like, oh, furries have a Nazi problem. They have a far-right problem. That was the co-opting, by the way. Right? Like, that was when they were infiltrated by left-wing ideologues. And all of a sudden, whenever you saw a right-winger getting canceled, you would go through the people doing the canceling. Many of them were furries. And I was fucking right. But, like, no one believed me. Like, well, until it was too late. Walking Corpse. Lol, YouTube won't let me impinge on the intellectual capabilities of those who support the hyena. Of course it won't. YouTube is afraid of them. Pippa is a furry? Is she? I don't know. I haven't followed. But I wouldn't be surprised. She has too much knowledge. She has too much wisdom in the ways. So, it's possible. I used to chat to a furry. Goodness gracious. Before, who was from Germany and who was literally a millionaire. He had like 3 million euros in his bank account. He was a full-on furry who always bought commissions. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise. A lot of them have too much cash. Like, I can't explain it. And the reason that I know they have too much cash is because I would look at the artists that were part of the fandom, and they would commission something like $500 per artwork. And then you go like to the Japanese shit. You know, you go to Japanese Twitter and you have like some artists that draw in a way that puts anime to shame. Like they're making the waifus with like the most detailed eyes imaginable and the most expressive lifelike features, and you're like, what shit? And they're like, $100 for this, $100 for commission, and I'm like, come on, dude. And then you go to the furries and $500 for like a Sonichu or some shit, and it's like, how is this, like how? And the reason this is happening is because the furries were getting too many commissions. They were getting too many people wanting them to draw to the point where they constantly raise their price. Why is drag shows okay, but fur shows not? But here's the thing with drag shows, right? I'm a European person. I'm not Amerikansky. I'm not against drag. I think it's part of the adult industry, and it should stay in the adult industry. Whenever I see drag, I don't want to see kids next to drag. Same with furries. I have no problem with furries, but if I were to see kids next to furries, I would freak out. No, like the furries are part of the adult industry as well, whether they want to admit it or not. Furry things should be in furry places with the adults. Drag things should be in drag places with the adults. And it shouldn't be normalized. Like, no, these are niche things like BDSM and other stuff, right? Like, they're niche stuff that adults enjoy. And they should be enjoyed by adults with other adults. Away from the public eye. It's because very rich people always have some weird fetish or another. I think most people have like some bizarre stuff. If you don't have anything bizarre, let me see your internet history. Drag should remain a niche underground subculture. I feel like the people in that subculture probably wanted to remain niche and underground. I think they find it cringe as well. You know, unlike trans people and LGBT folk, like I do not know anyone that does drag. I never spoke with anyone, never talked with anyone that either does, enjoys, or partakes. Because I spoke with trans people, I spoke with gay people, I spoke with lesbians, I spoke with almost everyone, but I never spoke with someone that does drag. But I'm willing to bet, if there is someone that's into the drag scene, whether they're doing it themselves or they like watching it or whatever, they probably find it cringe that it's going mainstream. They probably find it cringe that it's at the Olympics. Like, even when I was a furry, if I would have seen furries at the Olympics, I would find it cringe and concerning. And I would ask, like, the organizers, what the fuck were you thinking? Actually, I remember when I was in the furry fandom, this was, like, decades ago, there was, like, this organizer, Uncle Kage. Uncle Kage was a chemist. His persona was a cockroach. And he was organizing, I think it was FurCon in California. Yeah. Anyway, he basically said at a convention that furries should stay away from cameras. Like, at the time, there weren't smartphones. But you had reporters. And he said, like, furries should stay away from reporters. They should not justify their fandom to anyone. They should not try and convince other people in joining the fandom because you do not want the public eye. Like, you want to enjoy, like the things we have now, we enjoy them, we appreciate them amongst each other, but you do not want to get other people involved. You do not want to convince grandma to become a furry. No, right? And my God, he was right. And it wasn't about furry. It was about literally everything. Everything. Whether you're into goth, heavy metal, being a jock, anime, shipbuilding, doesn't fucking matter. Any hobby that you have, it is best if people don't fucking know about it. And my perfect example with this, and I actually had to struggle coming up with this example, which is why I will repeat it ad nauseum. It's that, imagine you like spicy food, and I said this last stream, like, I absolutely love spicy food. I even ate a Carolina Reaper once. Never again, hashtag. But I enjoy escalating the level of spiciness that I can tolerate. I just love it. I eat sriracha sauce like ketchup, right? So imagine if I were to find a restaurant which delivers spicy food. And it's got like some of the spiciest food that you can possibly imagine. And there's not a lot of people that go there, but is the restaurant, right? You eat from there and you shit fire. Now, imagine I go around and I tell other people about it, and they tell other people, and eventually there's more and more coming to the point where they're adding a new item in the menu, and this one is less spicy. And as time goes on, they keep adding more less spicy stuff on the menu to the point where the spiciness is just going away. Like you have all these people coming in, and they're very concerned about health hazards, and it's like, yeah, but like, is it really safe to serve spicy food to individuals that's this spicy? I mean, I'm a spicy food connoisseur, but like, really serving ghost chili peppers? No, that's too much. You know, like, my wife doesn't like it. Can we like still have like spicy stuff, but like mild it down as much as possible. So now they're serving like slightly spicy food, and the people like me who enjoy the niche, who enjoy like eating the spiciest food in town, now we can't get our fix because the restaurant that we used to like is now just catering for the wider audience, and it's just like doing the same shit that every other restaurant is doing. So this is why your hobbies need to be gate-kept. This is why it's not actually good if the wider audience gets in the hobby. I remember when I was a kid in high school, it was like the goths, right? And it was so edgy and cool to be a goth, and everyone looked at us like we're a weirdo. And then for some fucking reason, in Romania, it went a little bit more mainstream, and the cringe came in. And all of a sudden, people were like, oh, but the lyrics, like, these lyrics aren't acceptable, and that, and that, and that. And it's like, oh, fucking hell, you know? Like, this is why it's actually good when it's niche and it's catering to niche people. So that will be like Taco Bell. Mild sauce. Yeah. Yeah, it's the whole catering for the modern audience bullshit. I mean, I don't know, man. I think like maybe it's just the natural evolution of things. I think it's social media, to be honest, because when I was a kid, there were all these different sub-factions. Like, you had the jocks, and you had the goths, and the heavy metal, and all the other people that I discussed. And they all had like their own subcultures and subgenres. And it was the same on the internet, right? Like, on the internet, you had 4chan, and you had Tumblr, and you had like all these other websites that now possibly don't exist. But every single website, it had its own genre. It had its own themes. It had its own rules. And you couldn't act the way you act on 4chan and then carry it over to Tumblr. Now every website is pretty much the same. Every website, like, whether it's Reddit, whether it's 4chan, whether it's like whatever... What you say on 4chan, you can say on Twitter, and vice versa, plus minus a couple of N-words. But it's the same culture, really. Like, nothing is different. Nothing changes. It's so difficult for me to explain to a person that wasn't born in the early 2000s how the internet was back then. Yeah, 4chan now is what Reddit used to be back in 2016. And I would even go further and say that it's even more milquetoast. It's probably like where Reddit was in 2018. I wouldn't be surprised if 3 or 4 years from now you won't be able to even say the N-word on 4chan. Like, it's getting to that place. Oh, yeah. And gaming had sub-factions. That's true. Like, there were websites where you only had FPS gamers, and you had websites where you only had 4X gamers. But to be fair, I can understand why that doesn't happen now. It's simply because, like, gaming is pretty much dead. Like, back then you would have like 40, maybe 50 games coming out every year. Now you have like, what, maybe 10 games per year that are AAA. Like, you have very few games, basically. So people can't actually have genres. Anyway, I need to go and upload the videos on my main and secondary channel. Check Twitter. Also, elves are at maximum capacity. Okay, I'll check Twitter, and after that, I'll end the stream. In before you're sending something amazing on Twitter that I have to keep the stream going for a little bit more. Venezuelan army captains Javier and Juan Carlos sent a message to all soldiers. It's time to make the right decisions at a historical moment. It's evident we have a new president-elect. Man, the Venezuelan thing, I would say this, right? All the pro-regime talking points in Venezuela are word for word copied from the United States 2020 election. Let me give you a couple. There is zero evidence of any wrongdoings during these elections. Far-right people are trying to topple the government. Like literally, it's almost like the people at Venezuela, they looked at the Democratic Party talking points from 2020 and they shamelessly stole every single one without even trying to modify them a little bit. Without even trying to make it look like it's not their homework. Now, I can probably predict what they're going to say 1 week from now, just like by looking at the 2020 timeline and picking up what the Democrats said and just applying it to the Venezuelan election. Oh yeah, the free and fair. That's the only ones they haven't used yet. Yeah, but they're probably going to use free and fair election as well. Yeah, they stopped counting during the Venezuelan election, but like you can see that the Venezuelan election was that bad. Yeah, you guys remember that that F that appeared in the United States at the graph, you know, the F graph. The Venezuelan election has 2 F graphs. So like they did 1 F and then like another, like right after, because it was it wasn't one wasn't enough. They required 2. Anyway, right. Thank you for watching the stream. Really like you guys, and I'll see you on my secondary channels. Take care.